3 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The aliens thought life would go back to normal quickly. They were wrong. Dr. Kate Sullivan sat in her new office on Mars, looking at reports from across the galaxy. Each report told the same story. Things were breaking down everywhere humans used to work. The communication network between the Outer Rim and core worlds is having problems, she told Captain Rick Barnes over the video screen. Message delays are getting longer every day. Barnes was loading the last of the human equipment from the Andorian shipyards. The blue-skinned Andorians watched him with worried faces. They had always been nicer to humans than most aliens, but they had still voted against Earth. "How bad is it?" Barnes asked as his crew carried another container of fusion drive components to their ship. "Bad," Sullivan replied. "The aliens don't know how to fix the quantum transmitters. Humans designed that whole system 20 years ago." Barnes looked around the shipyard. Huge alien vessels sat half-built in the construction bays. Without human fusion drives, they would never fly. The Andorians are starting to panic. Their ship production has stopped completely. On the agricultural world of Verdania, Farmer Joe, Mitchell was saying goodbye to the green fields he had helped create. The alien plants had been dying before humans arrived. Mitchell and his team had spent 8 years developing new growing methods that could feed billions of aliens. Now he was taking those secrets with him. "Load everything," he told his workers. "Seeds, soil samples, genetic banks, all of it." The Verdanian officials watched helplessly. They had tried to order the humans to stay, but Earth no longer recognized council authority. The local police were too afraid to fight human security teams. "You cannot take our agricultural data," said High Farmer Veldan, a tall green alien with 4 arms. "That information belongs to Verdania," Mitchell laughed. "Your people were starving when we got here. We saved your world. Now you can figure out how to save it again." The human transport ships lifted off, carrying away the knowledge that had turned Verdania into the food supplier for half the galaxy. Within weeks, the planet's crop yields would start falling. Within months, food shortages would spread to dozens of worlds. In the Krillian mining system, engineer Amy Foster was completing her own mission. The lizard-like Krillians had huge mining operations on 6 worlds. They pulled valuable metals from deep underground using equipment they barely understood. Human geologists had designed the entire operation. Human engineers maintained the complex machinery. Human scientists had found the ore deposits in the first place. Foster stood in the main control room of Mining Platform 7. Around her, Krillian workers operated machines with controls labeled in human languages they could not read. "Goodbye," she said to no one in particular, then activated the deletion program on her portable computer. 20 years of mining surveys vanished from the database. Geological maps that showed where to dig for rare metals disappeared. Maintenance schedules for the complex drilling equipment were wiped clean. The Krillians would not notice for days. When they did, it would be too late. Their mining operations would collapse one by one as equipment broke down, and no one knew how to fix it. Scientist Dan Wright had a bigger job. He was in charge of removing all human research from the Council's central databases. These computers stored the scientific knowledge of 200 worlds. Humans had contributed more than any other single species. Wright sat in the data center on Nexus Prime, surrounded by humming servers and blinking lights. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as he identified and downloaded human research, files, medical treatments for alien diseases, new types of weapons and shields, faster-than-light communication technology, energy production methods, terraforming techniques. The list went on and on. "How much longer?" asked Lieutenant Tony Davis, the security officer protecting Wright's team. 6 more hours, Wright replied without looking up. "There's so much data. I had no idea humans had contributed this much." Davis checked his watch. The evacuation fleet would leave Nexus Prime in 8 hours. After that, any humans still on the station would be trapped. "The aliens are getting suspicious," Davis warned. They keep asking why we need access to the computers. Let them ask, Wright said. By the time they figure it out, we'll be gone, and so will 30 years of human research. On the medical station orbiting Centauri Prime, Dr. Matt Jordan was packing the last of his equipment. The station treated patients from across the galaxy. Human doctors had developed many of the treatments used there. Doctor, please reconsider, begged Chief Medical Officer HFY, a pale alien with large black eyes. The Zentarian plague is spreading again. Without your research, thousands will die. Jordan stopped packing and looked at the alien doctor. They had worked together for 4 years. HFY was a good person who truly cared about saving lives. I'm sorry, Jordan said. I really am. But your government voted to limit human expansion yesterday. They can't use us as tools and treat us as enemies at the same time. He sealed the container holding his research notes and samples. The cure for the Zentarian plague was in that box. So were treatments for 6 other diseases that affected Council species. The Council will change their minds, HFY said desperately. Give them time. Jordan shook his head. Time is over. Humans offered friendship and got fear in return. Now everyone gets to live with the results. The evacuation continued across hundreds of worlds. Human teachers left their schools, taking advanced educational methods with them. Human artists destroyed their work rather than leave it for aliens who had rejected them. Human mechanics shut down the factories they had designed. Captain Greg Thompson led a scouting mission to observe the Council's response. His stealth ship hid in the asteroid field near Nexus Prime, watching the chaos unfold. The Valorian and Zephyrian delegations are fighting, reported his communications officer. They're blaming each other for the human departure. Thompson smiled grimly. Good. Let them fight. They wanted us gone. Now they can deal with the consequences. His sensors showed ships moving in every direction as alien species tried to handle the crisis. Some were chasing human evacuation fleets, demanding they return. Others were arguing with each other about what to do next. None of them understood the real problem yet. They thought humans were just angry and would come back when they calmed down. They did not realize how much their civilization depended on human knowledge and skills. Researcher Nina Powell was documenting everything from Earth. Her job was to track the effects of the human withdrawal on Council society. The early results were worse than anyone had expected. The terraforming project on Kepler 442b has stopped, she reported to Earth Command. The atmospheric processors were human-designed. The aliens can't operate them. What about the antimatter research station? Asked General Frank Miller. Evacuated completely, Powell replied. Dr. Williams took all the research data. The project was 60% human-staffed anyway, Miller nodded. And the Border Patrol? Falling apart. Human tactical systems made, up 40% of the Council fleet's combat capability. Pirate attacks are increasing in the outer systems. The reports kept coming in. Trade routes were failing as navigation systems broke down. Scientific projects were stopping as human researchers left. Military operations were becoming less effective as human advisors disappeared. On Earth, President Andrew Garcia watched the chaos unfold with mixed feelings. He had hoped the aliens would treat humans better. Instead, they had forced this situation on everyone. Sir, said his aide, we're getting requests for help from 17 Council worlds. They want human engineers and doctors to return. Garcia leaned back in his chair. What are they offering? Nothing yet, sir. They seem to think we'll come back because we have to. Then they still don't understand, Garcia said. Humans don't have to do anything anymore. We're free. The great human exodus continued. Ships full of people, equipment, and knowledge headed for human space. Behind them, they left a galactic civilization that was slowly discovering how much it had depended on the species it had rejected. The aliens had thought humans needed the Council to survive. Soon, they would learn the truth. The Council needed. Humans far more than humans had ever needed the Council, and now it was too late to change anything. 6 months after humanity left the Galactic Council, the real problems began to show. What started as small delays and minor failures was becoming a crisis that spread across the galaxy. Admiral Susan Clark commanded the human frontier fleet from her flagship, the New York. Her ships patrolled the edge of human space, watching as alien vessels drifted helplessly through the void. "Admiral, we're getting another distress call," reported Lieutenant Jake Foster from the communications station. "It's a Valorian cargo ship. Their navigation system has failed." Clark looked at the main screen. The alien ship was spinning slowly, its crew unable to control their own vessel. "How many is that this week?" 17, ma'am," Foster replied. "All with the same problem: navigation failure." The Valorians had no idea that their navigation systems used human-designed algorithms. When humans stopped updating the software, the systems began developing errors. Now Valorian ships were getting lost in space. "Are we helping them?" asked Captain Tony Davis from the tactical station. Clark shook her head. "Orders from Earth Command. We observe only. Let them figure out their own problems." On the medical world of Zentari Prime, the plague was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Dr. HFY stood in his laboratory, surrounded by sick patients and useless equipment. The machines that Dr. Jordan had used to develop treatments were still there, but no one knew how to operate them. The research notes were gone. The samples had been destroyed. Everything that could have saved lives was lost. "How many dead today?" HFY asked his assistant. 214, came the reply. "The infection is spreading to other worlds now." HFY closed his eyes. Before the humans left, the plague had been contained. The death rate was dropping. Now it was back and worse than ever. Messages had been sent to Earth begging for help. All of them went unanswered. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. Captain Greg Thompson led another reconnaissance mission, this time to the Scion homeworld. The energy beings who lived there were supposed to be the smartest species in the galaxy. They could read minds and move objects with thought alone. But they could not fix a fusion reactor. "Look at that," Thompson said, pointing to the main city on the planet below. Half the buildings were dark. "Their power grid is failing. The Scions had always left technology to other species. They were too advanced for such simple things," they claimed. Human engineers had maintained their power systems for years. Now those engineers were gone, and the Scions were learning that mental powers could not restart a fusion reactor. Their elegant cities were going dark one by one. "Sir," said his science officer, "we're detecting massive energy fluctuations. Their main reactor is becoming unstable." Thompson watched through the ship's telescopes as Scion engineers floated around the reactor, trying to understand controls labeled in human languages. They looked confused and frightened. "If that reactor goes critical, it'll take out half the city," the science officer warned. "Not our problem anymore," Thompson replied. He ordered his ship to move to a safe distance. Whatever happened next, the Scions would have to handle it themselves. Dr. Helen Brooks was setting up humanity's new research center on Wolf 359. The facilities here were better than anything the Council had offered. Without alien bureaucracy slowing them down, human scientists were making breakthroughs every day. "The new energy shield design is ready for testing," she told General Frank Miller over the communication link. "It's 50% more effective than anything the Council has." "Good," Miller replied. "What about the medical research?" "Dr. Jordan's team has developed 3 new treatments just this month. We're advancing faster than we ever did under Council restrictions." The irony was not lost on Brooks. The aliens had limited human research because they were afraid of human progress. Now that humans were free, they were advancing even faster. Meanwhile, the Council worlds were falling behind. Without human innovation driving new discoveries, their technology was becoming outdated. The gap between human and alien capabilities was growing every day. On the Krillian mining world of Tektros, the situation was becoming desperate. Mining Chief Graktar stood in the control room, watching as another drilling platform went offline. "That's the fifth one this week," his assistant reported. "The maintenance schedule shows nothing." Graktar growled in frustration. The human engineers had maintained detailed records of everything. When they left, they took those records with them. Now complex machines were breaking down and no one knew how to fix them. "What about the geological surveys?" he asked. "Gone. All of them. We don't know where to dig for the rare metals anymore." The Krillian economy depended on mining. Their ships, their weapons, their technology all required rare metals that came from deep underground. Without human knowledge to guide them, they were digging blind. Production was dropping every day. Soon they would run out of materials to trade with other worlds. The proud Krillian Empire was facing economic collapse. Captain Lisa Morgan was training new human pilots at the military academy on Mars. Earth's forces were growing stronger while Council militaries grew weaker. "The Council fleet has lost another battle with pirates," she told her students. "The Outer Rim systems are almost completely lawless now. Without human tactical systems and battle strategies, the Council fleet was less effective than ever. Pirates who had been hiding in the shadows were becoming bold. They attacked merchant ships and raided colonies knowing the Council could not stop them." "Why don't we help?" asked one young pilot. Morgan's expression hardened. "Because they made their choice. They wanted us gone. Now they get to live with what that means." Human space, in contrast, was completely safe. The few pirates who tried to attack human ships were quickly destroyed by advanced weapons and superior tactics. Word spread through the criminal networks. Stay away from human territory. The political situation on Nexus Prime was getting worse every day. Ambassador Zexitar called emergency session after emergency session, but no one could agree on what to do. "The Valorian Confederation is blaming us for the human departure," complained the Zephyrian delegate. "They say our territorial expansion proposal was too harsh." "Your proposal was exactly what we agreed on," Zextar replied angrily. "The Valorians voted for it too." The unity that had once held the Council together was breaking apart. Species that had worked together for centuries were now pointing fingers at each other. Everyone wanted someone else to take the blame for the crisis. Some delegates suggested sending envoys to Earth to negotiate humanity's return. Others wanted to threaten humans with military action. A few even proposed dividing up human territory between Council members. None of them understood that humans no longer cared what the Council thought or did. Engineer Paul Harrison was working on Nexus Prime's life support systems when the first major failure occurred. He had been the chief engineer before the human exodus. Now he was back as an outside contractor, charging enormous fees to fix problems that should never have happened. "The atmospheric recycling system is completely broken," he told Station Commander Veltash. "Your people tried to repair it themselves and made it worse." Veltash, an insect-like alien with 6 arms, looked frustrated. "How long to fix it?" 3 weeks minimum," Harrison replied. "That's if I can get replacement parts. Most of them were made in human factories." "What do you want for payment?" Harrison smiled. "Technology transfer. Full technical specifications for Nexus Prime's defensive systems." "Impossible. That information is classified." "Then enjoy breathing recycled air for the next month," Harrison said, packing up his tools. The balance of power was shifting. Humans were no longer asking for permission or begging for acceptance. They had something the aliens needed, and they were going to get fair payment for it. Dr. Nina Powell continued documenting the collapse from Earth. Her reports painted a picture of galactic civilization in free fall. "Food riots on Verdania," she told the Earth Command briefing. "The Andorian shipyards have shut down completely. 3 more mining worlds have gone offline, and the pirate attacks are spreading toward the core worlds." General Miller reviewed the data with grim satisfaction. "How long before they realize they need us more than we need them?" "Some already know," Powell replied, "but their governments are too proud to admit it publicly. They're still hoping this will all blow over. It won't, Miller said firmly. This is just the beginning. Wait until the real system's failures start happening. As if to prove his point, news came in that the main power station on the Scion homeworld had finally failed completely. 2 million energy beings were now living in darkness, unable to restart their own power grid. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Humans had not just been junior partners in galactic civilization, they had been the foundation that held everything together. Without that foundation, the whole structure was collapsing, and there was no way to rebuild it without bringing the humans back. 1 year after humanity left the Galactic Council, the collapse was complete. What had once been the greatest civilization in the galaxy was now a collection of struggling worlds fighting for survival. Station Commander Veltash floated in the emergency command center of Nexus Prime. Half the station was without power. The other half was running on backup systems that were failing one by one. The Great Council chambers sat empty and dark. "How many life support failures today?" he asked his aide. 7 more sections, sir. We've had to evacuate levels 15 through 23. Veltash's antennae drooped with exhaustion. Chief Engineer Paul Harrison had fixed some systems, but each repair cost more than the last. The human engineer now demanded weapons technology, star charts, and even voting rights in exchange for his work. "Any word from the other council worlds?" "The Krillian Mining Consortium has declared bankruptcy," his aide reported. "The Valorian Confederation is splitting apart. 3 member species have withdrawn from their alliance. The mighty powers that had once ruled the galaxy were crumbling. Without human technology and expertise, they could not maintain their own civilizations." Admiral Lucy Wright monitored the chaos from her ship in human space. Her sensors showed the full extent of the disaster. The Andorian fleet, once the pride of Council military forces, was completely grounded. Their fusion drives had failed months ago, and they had no idea how to build new ones. "Ma'am, we're receiving another transmission from the Andorian High Command," reported her communications officer. "What do they want this time?" Wright asked. "They're offering to share their weapons technology in exchange for fusion drive specifications." Wright laughed. "Last month, they offered us 3 star systems. Now they want to trade military secrets. They're getting desperate." The Andorians were not alone. Every council species was suffering from the human withdrawal. The Scions had lost 4 cities to power failures. The Zephyrians could not maintain their mining equipment. Even the proud Valorians were begging for help. Dr. Helen Brooks continued her research on the human colony world of New Eden. Her laboratories were the most advanced in known space. Without council restrictions, science had leaped forward by decades. "The new medical scanner is finished," she told President Garcia during their weekly briefing. "It can detect diseases that council medicine never knew existed." "What about our military technology?" Garcia asked. "Captain Miller's team has developed plasma weapons that are 3 times more powerful than anything the council has. Our ships are faster, our shields are stronger, and our computers are smarter." The gap between human and alien technology was growing every day. While the council world struggled with failing systems, humans were achieving breakthrough after breakthrough. "Sir," Brooks continued, "we've also made contact with the hegemony." Garcia raised an eyebrow. The hegemony was a collection of worlds beyond council space. They had never been part of the galactic government. What do they want? Trade agreements. Research partnerships. They're impressed by our rapid advancement. Some of their leaders want to form an alliance. This was exactly what Garcia had hoped for. Humanity was no longer isolated. New allies were emerging from species that had been ignored by the Council. On the Krillian homeworld, Emperor Sektar faced the worst crisis in his species' history. The great mining operations that had built their empire were shutting down one by one. Without rare metals to trade, the Krillian economy was collapsing. "How many worlds have stopped sending tribute?" he asked his finance minister. 14 so far, Your Majesty. They say they have nothing left to trade. Sektar's claws scraped against his throne. The Krillians had been one of the strongest voices against human expansion. They had laughed when humans left the council. No one was laughing now. What about the emergency measures? We've sent mining teams to every world we control, but without the human geological surveys, they're digging random holes. Most expeditions find nothing. The irony was bitter. The Krillians controlled dozens of worlds rich in rare metals, but they no longer knew where to find them. Captain Frank Miller led a patrol through the former council border region. What he saw shocked even him. Entire star systems had gone dark. Space stations drifted empty through the void. Merchant ships sat abandoned when their crews could no longer afford fuel. "Look at that," his pilot said, pointing to a massive cargo vessel, floating dead in space. Miller checked his sensors. Zephyrian heavy freighter. Life support failed 3 days ago. Are there survivors? No. The crew evacuated in escape pods, but those failed too. This was the reality of the galactic collapse. Species that had ruled the stars for thousands of years could no longer keep their own ships running. Dr. Matt Jordan was setting up a new medical research facility on the human world of Haven. His team had made incredible discoveries since leaving council space. They had cured diseases, extended lifespans, and developed treatments that seemed like magic. The neural regeneration therapy is ready for testing, his assistant reported. We can regrow damaged brain tissue. Jordan nodded with satisfaction. This breakthrough would have been impossible under council restrictions. They had limited human medical research because they feared what humans might discover. What about the requests for help? Still coming in. The Zentari plague has spread to 47 worlds now. Deaths are approaching 2 million. Jordan felt a brief moment of sadness. He had dedicated his life to saving lives regardless of species. But the aliens had made their choice when they rejected humanity. "Send the standard reply," he said. "Humanitarian aid will be considered in exchange for full diplomatic recognition and technology transfer." No council world had agreed to those terms yet. Their pride was worth more to them than the lives of their own people. The Valorian Confederation was falling apart completely. What had once been a united alliance of 15 species was now a collection of desperate worlds fighting over scraps. Consul Merdane floated in his private chambers, his energy form flickering with stress. Reports from across Valorian space told the same story. Infrastructure failure, economic collapse, social unrest. The Nexari have officially withdrawn from the Confederation, his aide reported. They blame us for the human crisis. As if they didn't vote the same way we did, Merdane replied bitterly. The Kelthans are threatening to withdraw too. They say we've failed as leaders. The Great Alliance that had lasted for 3,000 years was destroying itself. Each species blamed the others for the disaster, but none would admit their own role in creating it. Captain Tony Davis commanded the human exploration fleet as it surveyed new star systems beyond former council space. Every day brought new discoveries, rich worlds, advanced technologies, friendly species that welcomed human contact. Another inhabited system, his science officer reported. The locals call themselves the Marthari. They seem friendly. Davis studied the data. Population? About 2 billion. Technology level is roughly equivalent to early council development. But, sir, they have something interesting. What? They've been fighting off council expansion attempts for decades. They don't like the galactic government any more than we do. This was perfect. The Marthari could become valuable allies in humanity's growing sphere of influence. They had resources, technology, and most importantly, they shared humanity's distrust of the Council. "Prepare a diplomatic mission," Davis ordered. "Let's see if they want to be friends." President Garcia reviewed the latest intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The news was worse than even he had expected. The Council was not just struggling, it was dying. The central government on Nexus Prime has lost contact with 60% of member worlds, his intelligence chief reported. Some regions have declared independence. Others have simply stopped responding to Council communications. What about their military? The Council fleet is down to 30% operational strength. Most ships can't leave dock because their fusion drives have failed. Garcia leaned back in his chair. How long before complete collapse? At this rate? 6 months? Maybe less. The plan had worked better than anyone had dared hope. Humanity had wanted to be treated as equals in galactic civilization. When that was denied, they had simply built their own civilization instead. Now, the old galaxy was crumbling while the new human-led alliance grew stronger every day. Dr. Sarah Williams led the first human expedition to the galactic core region. Her ships carried the most advanced technology in known space. They were exploring areas that Council ships could no longer reach. Incredible, she breathed, looking at the sensor readings. There are hundreds of undiscovered worlds here, some with civilizations that have never heard of the Council. This was humanity's future. Not as junior partners in someone else's empire, but as the leaders of their own growing alliance. Species across the galaxy were beginning to see humans as the rising power worth aligning with. The galaxy was changing. The old order was dying, and from its ashes, something new was being born. Something with humans at its center, not its edges. The bub aliens who had rejected humanity were about to learn the true cost of their decision. Admiral Kate Sullivan had never been nervous about a mission before, but this was different. She stood in the docking bay of Harmony Prime, the Confederation's neutral meeting station, watching her breath form clouds in the cold air. The station was enormous, bigger than any human structure ever built. The aliens had agreed to meet with human representatives, but Kate could tell they were still worried. The Confederation delegation that greeted her included 6 different species, all of them keeping their distance. Ambassador Zektar stepped forward. In person, he was taller than Kate expected, with blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. His forearms moved in patterns that Kate guessed was their form of polite greeting. "Welcome, Admiral Sullivan. We hope this meeting will help us understand your species better." Kate nodded. "We're grateful for this opportunity. Humanity wants nothing more than to join the galactic community in peace." But she could see doubt in Zektar's large eyes. The aliens had clearly done their research on human history, and they didn't like what they had found. Dr. Paul Chen carried a datapad filled with information about Earth's cultures. He had prepared for months, trying to find ways to explain humanity that wouldn't frighten the aliens. But as he began his presentation, he realized how difficult that would be. Humans evolved on a world with limited resources, Paul explained to the assembled alien council. This created competition between different groups of our species. The aliens listened in silence as Paul described human wars, military strategies, and the concept of nationalism. He showed them maps of Earth's countries and explained how humans had divided their planet into separate territories. Council member Thrix of the Aquarian Empire raised one of his tentacles. His species lived underwater and had never experienced land-based territorial conflicts. "You say humans fight over resources and land, but surely your species learned to share as you developed technology." Paul shook his head. "Human competition increased as our technology improved. We developed better weapons and more effective ways to fight wars." The aliens exchanged worried glances. Thrix's tentacles curled in what Paul recognized as a sign of distress. "This is most troubling. In our experience, intelligent species abandon warfare as they mature. Violence becomes unnecessary when technology can provide unlimited resources." Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster had been asked to demonstrate human military tactics for the alien observers. She set up a training simulation in one of the station's empty cargo bays, using holographic projectors to create a battlefield scenario. "This exercise shows how human forces might respond to an enemy attack," Amy explained as the simulation began. The holographic battlefield showed two armies facing each other across a valley. Amy commanded the human side, demonstrating tactics like flanking maneuvers, strategic retreats, and coordinated attacks. The aliens watched in horror as the simulated battle unfolded. They had never seen anything like it. The human soldiers moved, with precision and purpose, adapting their strategy as the situation changed. "You deliberately send some soldiers to die in order to achieve victory?" asked Dr. Yelan, a representative of the peaceful Xantharian Republic. Amy nodded grimly. "Sometimes sacrifice is necessary to protect the greater good. We call it acceptable losses." Several aliens left the room at that point. The concept of deliberately sacrificing lives was so foreign to them that they couldn't continue watching. Dr. Ben Roberts tried a different approach. As a psychologist, he hoped to explain the mental aspects of human behavior that led to their military nature. "Humans have what we call a fight-or-flight response," Ben explained. "When threatened, our bodies prepare us to either fight the danger or run away from it." The aliens listened with growing concern as Ben described human adrenaline, the warrior instinct, and the way humans bonded through shared conflict. "Your species is biologically programmed for violence?" Zektar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not just violence," Ben corrected. "We're programmed for survival. Sometimes that means fighting, but it also means protecting others and working together against common threats." But the aliens weren't convinced. To them, the human capacity for violence seemed like a dangerous flaw rather than an evolutionary advantage. The cultural exchange sessions continued for weeks. The humans tried to show their positive qualities, art, music, literature, and scientific achievements. But every conversation seemed to come back to humanity's military history. Dr. Lisa Martinez presented human scientific advances, including medical technology and space exploration. The aliens were impressed by human innovation, but worried about how quickly humans had developed weapons technology alongside peaceful advances. "Your species created nuclear weapons before you achieved interstellar travel," noted Counselor Vex of the Crystalline Harmony. "This sequence is backwards from normal development patterns." Kate felt frustrated by the aliens' constant focus on human warfare. She understood their concerns, but she also knew that human military strength came with a strong moral code. "We don't fight for pleasure," Kate told the council during one heated discussion. "We fight to protect those who can't protect themselves. Every human soldier takes an oath to defend the innocent." But the aliens struggled to understand this concept. In their experience, advanced species had evolved beyond the need for protection because they had eliminated all sources of conflict. Commander Ryan Blake joined the discussions to explain human military organization and command structure. The aliens were shocked to learn that humans had multiple armies, navies, and air forces, all ready for combat at any moment. "You maintain permanent warrior classes?" asked Ambassador Keelan of the Peaceful Gardens Collective. "Even during times of peace?" Ryan nodded. "Peace requires strength to maintain it. Our military forces train constantly, so they'll be ready if threats arise." The aliens couldn't comprehend this logic. They had dismantled their military forces thousands of years ago and couldn't imagine why any species would choose to keep weapons during peaceful times. As the cultural exchange continued, the gap between human and alien thinking became clear. The Confederation species had achieved peace by eliminating all sources of conflict. They had abundant resources, unified governments, and no competing interests. Humans, on the other hand, had achieved peace through strength and deterrence. They maintained the ability to fight in order to prevent wars from starting. The final session of the cultural exchange was tense. Zektar addressed Kate directly, his forearms folded in a gesture that indicated serious concern. "Admiral Sullivan, the Confederation Council has reviewed all the information about your species. We find humans to be intelligent and capable, but also dangerously unpredictable." Kate felt her heart sink. Are you saying humanity can't join the Confederation? We are saying that we need more time to consider the implications. Your species represents something we have never encountered. A civilization that reached the stars while retaining its capacity for warfare. The meeting ended without resolution. The humans returned to their ships, unsure whether they would ever be accepted by the galactic community. The aliens retreated to their council chambers to debate humanity's fate. Neither side realized that their philosophical differences would soon be tested in ways none of them could imagine. 2 years after humanity left the Galactic Council, the galaxy looked completely different. Where once there had been a single government ruling hundreds of worlds, now there were 2 powers. The dying council controlled less than half their former territory. The growing human alliance controlled the rest. President Andrew Garcia stood on the observation deck of Terra Station, humanity's new capital in space. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from dozens of species. Marthari vessels with their distinctive red hulls. Hegemony battleships painted in silver and blue. Even some former council worlds had switched sides. The final count is in, his aide reported. 67 species have joined the human alliance. 32 more have requested membership. Garcia smiled. What about the old council? Down to 43 member worlds. Most of their outlying territories have declared independence or joined us. The transformation had been remarkable. Species that had never been allowed to join the old council were eager to work with humans. The alliance offered something the council never had: real equality and mutual respect. Dr. Sarah Williams had just returned from her latest expedition beyond the galactic rim. Her teams were making contact with advanced civilizations that the council had never known existed. The architects want to establish formal relations, she told Garcia during their briefing. They control technology that makes our ships look primitive. Are they friendly? Very. They've been watching the galaxy for centuries. They say the Council's collapse was inevitable because it was built on fear and control. They respect what we're building instead. This was the pattern everywhere. As humans explored new regions of space, they found species that welcomed them as partners rather than masters. Captain Tony Davis commanded the Alliance fleet that patrolled former Council space. His ships were the most advanced in the galaxy, but they were also the most humane. Where Council fleets had enforced law through fear, Alliance ships protected the innocent and offered help to those in need. Sir, we're receiving a distress call from the Zalani system, his communications officer reported. Council or Alliance? Independent. They broke away from the Council 6 months ago. Davis nodded. Set course for Zalani. Full speed. This was how the Alliance grew. By helping species in trouble, humans earned loyalty and trust. Former Council worlds saw that life was better under human protection. On the ruins of Nexus Prime, Station Commander Veltash tried to maintain order with failing systems and a skeleton crew. Most of the alien diplomats had gone home to deal with their own crises. The great council chambers that had once echoed with hundreds of voices now sat silent and empty. Sir, another section has lost life support, his aide reported. We'll have to evacuate levels 8 through 12. Veltash's antennae twitched with despair. The station that had been the heart of galactic civilization was dying piece by piece. Soon it would be nothing but a ghost ship drifting through space. Any word from Earth? Nothing, sir. They haven't responded to any of our messages. The proud council that had once dismissed humans as primitive was now begging for help. But humanity was not interested in returning to the old system. They were too busy building something better. Admiral Susan Clark led the Alliance response to increasing pirate activity in the former Outer Rim. Her fleet was not just hunting criminals. They were bringing order to regions that the Council had abandoned. The Blink system has agreed to join the Alliance, her intelligence officer reported. That gives us control of the entire outer spiral. Clark studied the tactical display. Red. Markers showed former Council territory. Blue markers showed Alliance space. Blue was winning. What about pirate activity? Down 70% in Alliance space. The remaining gangs are fleeing toward Council territory. This was another advantage of the new order. Alliance technology was so advanced that pirates could not compete. Meanwhile, the failing Council worlds could barely protect themselves. Dr. Helen Brooks was putting the finishing touches on humanity's greatest achievement, the Genesis Project. Using advanced terraforming technology, humans were creating new worlds faster than anyone had thought possible. Paradise 7 is ready for colonization, she told President Garcia. Full atmosphere, stable climate, rich soil, it can support 10 million people. How many worlds is that now? 43 terraformed planets in 2 years. The Council took decades to complete a single world. Without alien bureaucracy and restrictions, human engineering had achieved the impossible. The Alliance was not just conquering territory, it was creating new homes for billions of people. Captain Frank Miller commanded the garrison on New Terra, the Alliance capital world. His job was to protect the government and prepare for what everyone knew was coming, a final confrontation with the dying Council. Long-range sensors are picking up ship movements in Council space, his intelligence team reported. Looks like they're gathering their remaining fleet. Miller was not worried. The Council fleet was a shadow of its former strength. Most of their ships could barely fly. Their weapons were outdated, their shields were weak, and their crews were demoralized. How many ships? Maybe 200 functional vessels. Half of those are civilian transports pressed into military service. The Alliance fleet numbered over 1,000 ships, all equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. If the Council wanted a fight, they would get one. On the Krillian homeworld, Emperor Sektar faced the final collapse of his empire. The great mining operations had shut down completely. His treasury was empty. His military could not afford fuel for their ships. Your Majesty, his advisor said carefully, there is one option left. Speak. Surrender. Join the Human Alliance. They've offered reasonable terms to species willing to switch sides. Sektar's claws scraped against his throne. The proud Krillian empire reduced to begging for mercy from the species they had once mocked. But what choice did he have? His people were starving. His worlds were dying. The humans offered food, medicine, and technology in exchange for loyalty. Draft the surrender document, he said quietly. The Valorian Confederation was falling apart even faster. Consul Merdane watched his energy form flicker as power failures spread across the homeworld. The Great Alliance of 15 species now controlled less than 5 star systems. The humans are offering us a choice, his aide reported. Surrender and join the Alliance with full membership rights, or face economic sanctions that will finish what the collapse started. Merdane pulsed with bitter amusement. Full membership rights, the very thing the Valorians had denied humans, was now being offered to them. What are the terms? Technology sharing, open borders, equal representation in the Alliance Senate, the same deal they've given everyone else. It was more than the Council had ever offered any member species. The humans were proving to be better leaders than the aliens had ever been. Dr. Matt Jordan stood in his new medical center on Haven, reviewing the latest breakthrough. His teams had developed universal vaccines that could protect any species from most known diseases. The distribution plan is ready, his assistant reported. We can immunize the entire Alliance in 6 months. Jordan nodded with satisfaction. What about the Council worlds? They've requested access to the vaccines. Should we share them? Jordan considered the question. The Zentari plague was still spreading through Council space. Millions had died because Council leaders were too proud to ask for help earlier. Send them the basic formula, he decided. But they'll have to figure out manufacturing and distribution themselves. It was a mercy the Council had never shown humanity. Even now, facing their former oppressors' complete defeat, humans chose compassion over revenge. The final confrontation came sooner than expected. A fleet of desperate council ships approached Alliance space, demanding the return of stolen technology and territory. Admiral Lucy Wright met them at the border with a single Alliance battle group. Her ships were outnumbered 3-1, but she was not concerned. Council Fleet. This is Admiral Wright of the Human Alliance Navy, she transmitted. You are entering Alliance space without permission. State your intentions. The reply came from Admiral Zektar himself, the former council leader's son who now commanded their military. We demand the return of stolen council technology and the immediate withdrawal of human forces from council space. Wright almost laughed. Council space? You mean the space that 47 worlds voluntarily left to join us? Those worlds were manipulated by human propaganda. Those worlds chose freedom over oppression, the same choice we made 2 years ago. The battle was over before it really began. Alliance weapons cut through Council shields like they were made of paper. Council fusion drives failed under the stress of combat. Within an hour, the proud fleet that was supposed to restore Council power was drifting helplessly in space. Wright opened a channel to the surviving ships. This is your only warning. Return to your territory and do not come back. Next time, we will not be so gentle. The broken Council fleet limped home with news of their total defeat. Any hope of military reconquest died with their fleet. 3 days later, the first Council delegation arrived at Terra Station. They came not as conquerors or even as equals, but as supplicants seeking mercy. Ambassador Jennifer Lee, John Carter's successor, received them in the Alliance Senate chambers. The roles were completely reversed from the old council meetings. Now aliens sat in the